Hey there folks, Mr. MKL here. I published an article recently called Fighting Games and Approachable Design, which you can and should check out at frostylate.ca. In it, I talk about some of the unique design spaces that games like Tough Love Arena and Fantasy Strike occupy. I use the term approachable very intentionally throughout the piece to distinguish this topic from accessibility. Approachability and accessibility often intersect, but they are actually distinct concerns. Approachable design allows players to quickly and easily access the core gameplay interactions. My article covers several methods to achieve this: one-button special attacks, generous input buffers, among other things. Accessible design, on the other hand, is one that allows players to actually perceive and interact with the game at all. Those are features like colorblind modes, haptic feedback for essential information, either in menus or in-game, as well as closed captions. Accessibility is an often overlooked but extremely important aspect of game design, and concerns about it were brought into sharp relief recently with the public beta of Guilty Gear Strive. With the public beta of Guilty Gear Strive. Ugh, damn it. I said the public beta. And concerns about it were brought into sharp relief recently with the public beta of Guilty Gear Strive. There was a notable lack of accessibility features in the Strive beta. This made perceiving the essential information difficult for the average player and impossible for others. Not to be outdone, Capcom, with their new Street Fighter V update, have inadvertently made some key gameplay audio monaural. Many vision-impaired players are now unable to play the game since they rely on those audio cues to determine key information like player positioning. Poor accessibility design not only prevents whole groups of players from engaging with the game, it also negatively impacts the wider player base. Some of these features may only be nice-to-haves for most players, but you quickly notice them when they start going missing. Before I go any further, I don't mean to imply that all games must be 100% approachable or even accessible, or that designing for technical proficiency and intricate systems is a bad thing. A design that prioritizes high execution will definitely end up excluding some number of players, and honestly, that's fine. Not all games are designed for all people, but we should still be designing for accessibility within whatever design paradigm we do choose. Games should be designed with intent. Without intent will inadvertently exclude some players completely, dissuade others, and lower player retention overall. With fewer players, we start to lose all the aspects of the community that we really value. We lose those amazing personalities that sustain our community, the artists, the lab monsters, the streamers, and all the fans. Careless design like that hurts us all. I covered various approachability options in depth in the article, so I highly recommend that you give that a read. Right now, I'm going to focus on accessibility though. The Guilty Gear Strive beta made a splash for its beautiful characters, its engaging systems, and unfortunately, its lack of accessibility. Some of the color choices for characters and stage backgrounds cause visibility issues, particularly for colorblind and vision-impaired players. This makes essential game information hard and sometimes impossible to see, especially when you combine it with some of the UI elements they chose to use in battle. Large combo counters are very readable, sure, but also highly distracting. It adds another layer of visual clutter to the game. I, for one, suffer from migraines, and certain visual and light patterns are triggers for me. This became a real concern when I had to strain my eyes to make out lightly colored characters on light backgrounds. Then I hit a combo and I noticed the large combo counter creep into my view and pulse as it ticked up. That combination of visual elements required me to take several breaks to avoid triggering a migraine. Strive also lacks closed captioning options and oral or haptic menu navigation feedback. What should be the simple act of navigating menus becomes a challenge for both vision and hearing impaired players. This makes the Guilty Gear beta fairly inaccessible at a base level, and that's a shame considering how rewarding the core gameplay can be once you gain access to it. Another way to highlight accessible design and the recent Street Fighter V audio issues is to look at a review of Mortal Kombat 11 from accessibility reviewer Brandon Cole at caniplaythat.com. They say, "Every single thing has a sound. Every movement, every attack, everything. If you activate a buff, that buff will have a sound for as long as it lasts. And yes, stereo positioning is spot on. You can tell if you're close to your opponent or far away, so you can go for that strike or throw that fireball. It's truly masterfully done audio." Not only is this a masterful accessible design choice, it gives players a rich and layered soundscape. It offers better audio cues for the competitively minded player too that doesn't have any accessibility needs in particular. Accessible and approachable changes like this can be a virtuous cycle. This is a cycle that Street Fighter V broke. The most recent patch rendered various audio tracks in mono as opposed to stereo. While this is merely unfortunate for many players, as Brandon Cole points out, many vision-impaired players rely on stereo audio cues to be able to play the game at all. This kind of oversight is a serious accessibility fail. A fix and better oversight in the future is needed, and soon. Intentional design can account for many of these problems, and solving them is imperative to ensure that we have a fair and accessible community. That expanded community and the features that grow out of these accessibility and these approachability changes will be a boon to all of us. It's truly a cause worth championing. For more information about accessibility in games, I highly recommend the website accessible.games. It's an initiative powered by the Able Gamers charity that aims to connect players with disabilities to the games industry, inspire games professionals in accessible game design, drive ideation and creation of new accessible solutions, and test games for accessibility so that everyone can game. It's a great place to learn more about this topic and get involved in making our spaces more accessible. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see you in the bracket.